He had nothing but 3/4 and a can of tuna in his backpack. But when a massive Hell's Angels dog whimpered with hunger outside that gas station, he didn't hesitate. What arrived 24 hours later, 300 motorcycles. Leather and chrome gleaming like an army would transform everything he thought he knew about mercy, loyalty, and what it means to truly come home. The November wind cuts through Eugene, Oregon with teeth sharp enough to draw blood. It slices down from the Cascades, through the valleys, finding every gap in fabric, every crack in resolve. On the eastern edge of town, where the industrial district bleeds into forgotten spaces, a Shell station stands like a lighthouse for the lost. Its fluorescent lights hum against the gathering dusk, casting pale illumination across cracked asphalt and oil-stained concrete. Randall Hayes sits against the station's brick wall, his back pressed to cold stone that seeps through layers of worn clothing. 63 years old, though his weathered face suggests more. His gray beard, untrimmed for months, catches the wind. His jacket army surplus, olive drab, the patches long faded hangs loose on a frame that once carried 200 pounds of muscle. Now he's lucky to weigh 160, his collarbones prominent beneath the collar of his flannel shirt. His eyes, pale blue and still sharp despite everything, watch the world with the careful attention of a man who's learned that survival depends on noticing things. The way shadows fall, the tone of approaching footsteps, the difference between someone who'll pass by and someone who'll spit. 26 years since he came back from the Gulf. 26 years of trying to fit back into a world that had moved on without him. The factory jobs that disappeared. The marriage that crumbled like sand through desperate fingers. The apartment he couldn't afford. The shelter that felt more dangerous than the street. The gradual slide from having something to having nothing. So slow he barely noticed until he was here, sitting against cold brick with 75 cents to his name and a can of tuna fish he'd been saving for 2 days. The gas station manager, a kid named Trevor with acne and ambition, pretends not to see him. They have an understanding. Randall doesn't panhandle the customers, doesn't use the bathroom unless it's an emergency, doesn't make himself obvious. In return, Trevor doesn't call the cops. It's not kindness, exactly. More like a negotiated peace treaty. The sun drops behind the western ridge, and the temperature follows. Randall pulls his jacket tighter, knowing it won't help much. His backpack sits beside him, containing everything he owns. A spare shirt, a pair of socks with holes in the heels, a photograph of his daughter, taken when she was 7, before the divorce, before she stopped returning his calls, a paperback novel, water-damaged and missing pages, and the can of tuna, his emergency rations. His stomach growls, has been growling since noon, but he's learned to ignore it. You eat when you have food, you wait when you don't. Simple mathematics of survival. The rumble reaches him before the sight does. Deep, guttural. The sound of something powerful approaching. Randall's head turns toward the highway access road, and his breath catches in his throat. A motorcycle. No, a motorcycle that seems too large to be real, chrome gleaming under the streetlights. Every inch of it polished to mirror brightness. The rider matches the machine's massive shoulders, leather vest covered in patches, arms thick as fence posts. His gray beard flows in the wind, his weathered face hidden behind dark sunglasses though the sun has already set. The bike pulls into the station with a roar that makes Randall's chest vibrate. The rider dismounts with surprising grace for his size, his boots hitting the pavement with solid authority. He's perhaps 55, 60 years old. The patches on his vest are unmistakable. Hell's Angels. The Death's Head logo. Oakland chapter. Randall knows enough to make himself small, invisible. You don't stare at men like this. You don't draw attention. You survive by being a ghost. But then he sees the dog. Strapped into a custom sidecar, a German shepherd sits with perfect discipline. The animal is beautiful dark sable coat, intelligent eyes, ears alert. But something in its posture speaks of weariness. The dog shifts, and Randall hears it a soft whimper, barely audible over the residual rumble of the cooling engine. The biker heads into the station, his gait confident, unhurried. Through the glass windows, Randall watches him grab a coffee, exchange words with Trevor, who straightens up considerably in the presence of this customer. Money changes hands. Randall's attention returns to the dog. It's watching him now, those intelligent eyes locked on his position against the wall. The animal whimpers again, and Randall recognizes that sound. He's heard it before. In the desert, in the field hospitals, in the shelter kennels. It's the sound of hunger that's moved past discomfort into genuine need. The dog's ribs, he notices now, are slightly visible beneath the coat. Not starved, but lean. Too lean. Something turns over in Randall's chest, something old and nearly forgotten. The part of him that used to care for his squad, that used to check on his daughter before bed, that used to matter to someone, somewhere. His hand moves to his backpack before his mind fully registers the decision. The can of tuna emerges, warm from being against his back. His only food. His emergency reserve. The thing standing between him and a night of stomach-cramping hunger. He looks at it, feels its weight. Then he looks at the dog, who's watching him with an intensity that seems to pierce through all his defenses. The biker is still inside, talking with Trevor, his broad back to the window. Randall's hands shake slightly as he works the pull tab on the can. The lid peels back with a soft metal whisper. The smell hits him immediately, salt and fish and protein his body desperately needs. His stomach twists with want. He stands slowly, his knees protesting. Every movement calculated to be non-threatening, non-aggressive. He approaches the motorcycle and its sidecar with the careful attention of someone approaching a superior officer's tent. The dog watches him approach, tail beginning a tentative wag. Up close, Randall can see the animal is older than he first thought, gray around the muzzle, a scar across one shoulder. A veteran, like him. "Hey there, soldier," Randall murmurs, his voice rough from disuse. "Looks like you're running on empty." He sets the can on the edge of the sidecar, close enough for the dog to reach. The animal hesitates only a moment before lurching forward, devouring the tuna with desperate efficiency. Randall watches, feeling something complicated twist in his gut. Hunger, satisfaction. The strange peace that comes from doing something right, even when it costs you. The dog finishes in seconds, licking the can clean, then looks up at Randall with eyes that seem to hold gratitude. Its tail wags harder now, full body wiggling with relief and appreciation. Randall allows himself one gentle touch, his hand on the dog's head, feeling the solid warmth of the animal, the softness of its fur. For just a moment, he's not invisible. He matters to someone, even if that someone has 4 legs. "There you go, buddy," he whispers. "That's better, right?" The door to the gas station opens with an electronic chime. The biker emerges, coffee in hand, and stops dead in his tracks. His eyes, still hidden behind those dark glasses despite the darkness, sweep the scene. His dog, wiggling with contentment. The empty tuna can. Randall, frozen halfway through, stepping back, his hands still outstretched. The silence stretches like a wire pulled tight. The biker's face is carved from granite, unreadable. He's perhaps 6'4", maybe 280 pounds of muscle and leather, and road-earned authority. His presence fills the space, makes the gas station feel small. Randall's throat goes dry. His mind races through possibilities, none of them good. The biker could think he was tampering with his property, could think he was trying to steal something, could simply object to being noticed by someone like Randall, homeless, forgotten, worthless. "I'm sorry," Randall manages, his voice barely above a whisper. "Your dog was hungry. I didn't mean I'll go. I'm sorry." He takes a step back, then another. The biker hasn't moved, hasn't spoken, his massive form silhouetted against the fluorescent lights of the station, creating shadows that seem to swallow everything. Then the biker moves. 2 steps forward, closing the distance Randall had tried to create. Randall tenses, old instincts screaming at him to protect himself, to deflect, to survive. The biker reaches up slowly and removes his sunglasses. His eyes are dark brown, weathered at the corners with decades of squinting into wind and sun. They study Randall with an intensity that feels like being X-rayed. "You fed my dog," the biker says. His voice is deep, gravelly, with the texture of desert sand and diesel smoke. Randall nods, not trusting words. "What's your name, brother?" The word brother lands like a physical blow. Randall hasn't been called that in years. Hasn't been called anything but "hey you" or "move along" or worse. "Randall," he manages. "Randall Hayes." The biker nods slowly, as if filing this information away somewhere important. "I'm Jericho." He pauses, then asks with careful neutrality, "You serve?" Randall's hand moves involuntarily to his jacket, to where a patch used to be before it faded away. "Army. 1st Armored Division. Gulf War." Something shifts in Jericho's expression. Not quite a smile, but a softening around the eyes. Recognition, perhaps. Respect. "Marines. 2nd Battalion. 7th Marines. Same war. Different sandbox." Jericho looks down at his dog, who's still wiggling with contentment. "This is Gunny. He's 15 years old, had him since he was a pup. Stomach's not what it used to be. Sometimes he needs smaller meals. More often. I was in there getting his dinner." He holds up a bag Randall hadn't noticed. Contains what looks like dog food. "But it looks like someone beat me to it." The weight of what Randall did settles over them both. That can of tuna was everything, and Jericho knows it. The biker's eyes sweep over Randall's frame, the too-thin body, the worn clothing, the backpack that holds a life compressed to nothing. He sees everything, understands everything. Jericho reaches into his vest pocket and pulls out a wallet, worn leather that's been to 1,000 miles of road. He extracts bills. Randall sees Twinkies, at least several of them, and extends his hand. "No," Randall says automatically, the word escaping before thought. "I didn't. It wasn't for brother," Jericho interrupts, his voice gentle but firm. "You gave my dog your last meal. That's not nothing. That's everything. Don't insult me by refusing." Randall's eyes burn. He blinks hard, fighting against the pressure building behind his eyelids. "I can't." "You can. You will." Jericho steps forward, takes Randall's hand, calloused, scarred, trembling, and presses the bills into his palm, then closes Randall's fingers around them. "There's a diner 3 blocks south. The Wayfarer. Tell them Jericho sent you. Get yourself a hot meal. A real one." The money feels like it's burning Randall's hand. He wants to refuse. Wants to maintain some shred of dignity, independence. But his stomach growls loudly in the silence, betraying him. Jericho hears it, and something in his expression turns even gentler. "Honor me by taking care of yourself, brother. You took care of mine. Let me take care of you." Randall's voice cracks when he speaks. "Thank you." Jericho nods once, sharp and military. Then he leans in closer, his voice dropping to something private, meant only for Randall. "Where are you sleeping tonight?" The question is asked without judgment, but Randall feels shame wash over him anyway. "There's an overpass about a mile east. It's dry, quiet." Jericho's jaw tightens. He's silent for a long moment, then nods again. "All right. You be safe tonight, brother. And thank you. For Gunny. He means everything to me. He's a good dog," Randall manages. "He's the best." Jericho scratches behind Gunny's ears, and the dog leans into his hand with obvious devotion. Then the biker mounts his motorcycle, the engine roaring to life with that same deep thunder. He raises one hand in farewell, part wave, part salute. Randall returns it automatically, muscle memory from decades past. Then Jericho and Gunny disappear into the night, taillights glowing red in the darkness, the sound of the engine fading gradually until silence reclaims the gas station. Randall stands alone in the cold November air, looking down at the money in his hand. 4 20s, $80. More money than he's held in months. Enough for food, for a cheap motel room maybe, for a start at something. He walks to the diner like a man in a dream. The Wayfarer is exactly where Jericho said it would be, a chrome-sided building that's seen better decades, but clean, warm light spilling from its windows into the street. Inside, the smell of coffee and frying food hits him like a physical force. The waitress, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and competent hands, raises an eyebrow when he mentions Jericho's name. Something shifts in her expression, respect, maybe caution. "Sit anywhere, honey," she says. "I'll get you some coffee." Randall orders carefully, choosing the country fried steak because it's filling and comes with eggs and hash browns and toast. When it arrives, steaming and generous, he has to close his eyes for a moment against the overwhelming gratitude that threatens to unmake him. He eats slowly, making it last, tasting every bite. Real food, hot food. Food he didn't find in a dumpster or receive from a soup kitchen line. That night, under the overpass, wrapped in his thin jacket and a blanket he bought with the remaining money, Randall sleeps better than he has in months. His stomach is full, his body is warm. And somewhere in the darkness, he feels the ghost of connection, brother to brother, soldier to soldier, human to human. He doesn't know, as he drifts into sleep, what's already in motion. Doesn't know that Jericho rode straight from that gas station to the clubhouse. Doesn't know about the conversation that happened there, in a room thick with cigar smoke and brotherhood. Doesn't know about the phone calls being made, the word being spread, the plan being formed. Doesn't know that by dawn, everything will change. The sun rises cold and pale over Eugene, painting the underside of the overpass in shades of gray and amber. Randall wakes to the distant sound of traffic on the highway above, his body stiff from sleeping on concrete, but his stomach miraculously quiet and content. He's packing his backpack, preparing for another day of careful navigation through a world that prefers not to see him, when he hears it. At first, it's distant, a low rumble that could be thunder. Except the sky is clear. The sound grows, becomes more distinct. Not thunder. Engines. Multiple engines. Many, many engines. Randall emerges from under the overpass, his hand shielding his eyes against the morning sun, and freezes. They're coming from the west, following the access road that runs parallel to the highway. Motorcycles. Dozens of them. No more than dozens. The line stretches back as far as he can see. A river of chrome and leather and controlled power. The sound is immense, overwhelming, vibrating through the ground and into his bones. At the front, riding a massive bike that gleams like dark water, is Jericho, and beside him, in the sidecar, Gunny sits with his ears alert, tongue lolling in what looks like a grin. The procession slows, then stops. One by one, engines cut out, leaving a silence that feels impossibly large after such noise. Randall stands frozen, his backpack hanging from one hand, his mind unable to process what his eyes are seeing. There are hundreds of them, 300, maybe more. Men and women, young and old, all wearing the same patches, the same colors. Hell's Angels from chapters he can't even identify. Oakland, San Francisco, Sacramento, Portland, Seattle. They've come from up and down the West Coast. For what? Why? Jericho dismounts and walks toward him. Behind him, the others follow, creating a wall of humanity that blocks the morning sun. Randall's breath catches in his throat. Fear and confusion war with something else, something he can't name. "Randall Hayes," Jericho says, his voice carrying in the morning air. "Last night you gave your last meal to my dog. You had nothing, and you gave everything." Randall shakes his head, trying to find words. It was just he was hungry. It wasn't, it was everything. Another biker steps forward, a woman, perhaps 40, with steel-gray hair and eyes like flint. "I'm called Raven, Oakland chapter. Jericho told us what you did." "Told everyone," another voice adds. This biker is younger, maybe 35, with elaborate tattoos covering his arms. "I'm called Hawkins, San Francisco chapter. We've been riding since midnight." More names, more faces. They introduce themselves one by one, not all of them. That would take hours, but the leaders, the road captains, the ones who speak for their chapters. Jericho raises his hand, and silence falls instantly. "We take care of our own," he says, his voice carrying authority that comes from decades of earning respect. "And brother, you're one of ours. You served, you sacrificed, you came home to a country that forgot you. That ends today." Randall's legs feel weak. "I don't understand." "You fed my dog," Jericho says simply. "You showed kindness when you had every reason to save that food for yourself. You chose compassion over survival. That's not weakness, brother. That's the strongest thing a man can do." Raven steps forward, holding something. A jacket. Leather, worn but well cared for, with patches that tell a story Randall doesn't know how to read. "This belonged to one of our brothers who passed last year. Name was Griffin. He was Army too. 1st Infantry. Vietnam. He'd want you to have it." She holds it out, and Randall takes it with trembling hands. The leather is soft, warm from being carried against someone's body. Inside the collar, he finds initials stitched in careful thread. The weight of it feels like purpose. "There's more," Jericho continues. "We've been making calls since last night. We've got you set up with a room at the Riverside Inn. It's paid for 6 months. Up front. No strings. No charity. Family taking care of family." Randall's vision blurs. He blinks hard, but tears escape anyway, tracking down his weathered cheeks. "I can't." "You can," Raven says firmly. "And you will, because refusing would insult every person here who rode through the night to be here for you." Another biker steps forward, older, perhaps 70, with a gray beard that reaches his chest. "Name's Benjamin. They call me Prophet. I run a construction company out of Portland. Always need good workers. Jericho says you worked factory maintenance before things got hard. That skill set transfers. Job's yours if you want it. Union wage. Full benefits." The earth seems to tilt beneath Randall's feet. A room, a job, purpose, identity. Things he'd written off as permanently lost, as belonging to a life he'd never reclaim. "Why?" he manages to whisper. I didn't do anything special. It was just a man with nothing, giving everything to help another living being in need." Jericho interrupts. "That's exactly the kind of man we want standing beside us. That's exactly the kind of brother we ride for." The crowd behind them murmurs agreement. Randall sees faces reflecting understanding, respect, recognition. These are people who know what it means to be judged by appearance, to be dismissed, to be misunderstood. They've built a family from that shared experience, and they're offering him membership. A younger woman steps forward, perhaps 25, with bright red hair and a messenger bag slung over her shoulder. "I'm called Lyric. I work at the VA hospital in Portland. I've been making calls this morning. Got you set up with appointments, medical, dental, mental health services, whatever you need. And I'll personally make sure you get there and that they treat you right. There's a fund," another voice adds. Randall turns to see a man in his 50s, stocky and solid, with a patch that identifies him as a treasurer. "We maintain it for brothers who need help. Between all the chapters here, we've got $23,000 available. It's yours. For clothes, for getting your teeth fixed, for whatever you need to get stable. $23,000. Randall's mind can't process the number. It's more money than he's seen in years. More than hope. It's transformation made tangible. "I served my country," Randall says, his voice breaking. "And when I came home broken, that country forgot I existed. I've been invisible for so long I forgot what it felt like to matter." "You matter," Jericho says, and his voice carries absolute conviction. "You've always mattered. The world just failed to see it. We see it. We see you, brother." He steps forward and embraces Randall, a firm, solid hug that speaks of acceptance and permanence. One by one, others follow. Raven, Prophet, Lyric, Hawkins. Names and faces blur together, but each embrace carries the same message. You belong. You're home. You're safe now. Gunny escapes his sidecar and bounds over, tail wagging furiously, pressing his solid warmth against Randall's legs. Randall reaches down to scratch behind the dog's ears, and Gunny leans into his hand with complete trust. "He remembers you," Jericho observes with satisfaction. "Dogs know good people. They see what matters." The morning sun climbs higher, warming the air. Around them, the bikers begin organizing. Someone produces coffee thermoses passed from hand to hand. Someone else has donuts, boxes of them. Food appears, shared freely, the simple communion of breaking bread together. Randall finds himself seated on his backpack. No, someone's replaced it with a folding chair that appeared from nowhere, holding a cup of coffee that steams in the cool air, wearing Griffin's jacket that fits like it was made for him. Around him, 300 brothers and sisters who hours ago were strangers and now are family. Prophet sits beside him, explaining the construction job in detail. The hours, the pay, the benefits. "We'll start you easy," he says. "Let you find your legs again. But I've seen men come back from where you've been. With support, with purpose, they thrive. You'll thrive." Lyric pulls out paperwork, helping him understand the VA benefits he's entitled to but never accessed. "There's back pay you're owed," she explains. "Might take time to process, but it's yours. And the medical care, you've earned it. Let us help you claim it." Throughout it all, Jericho stays close. Not hovering, but present. A solid presence that speaks of protection and permanence. As the morning progresses, the story emerges. After leaving Randall at the gas station, Jericho rode to the Oakland clubhouse and told what had happened. The homeless veteran who gave his last meal to Gunny. The sacrifice made without hesitation, without expectation of reward. The story spread through the brotherhood like wildfire. Within an hour, chapters up and down the coast were mobilizing. By midnight, riders were on the road. By dawn, 300 strong had gathered, united by a single purpose: to honor a man who embodied what they valued most: loyalty, sacrifice, choosing compassion over self-preservation. "You reminded us why we ride," Raven explains. "It's not about the bikes or the patches. It's about standing up for what's right, protecting those who need protection, being family to those who have none." The sun reaches its zenith as the gathering continues. Local news crews arrive, drawn by reports of 300 bikers congregating. They're kept at a respectful distance, but cameras capture the scene. A weathered veteran surrounded by leather-clad protectors, his face showing wonder and tears and hope. That evening, they escort Randall to the Riverside Inn. The procession moves through Eugene like a parade, 300 motorcycles with Randall riding in Jericho's sidecar where Gunny usually sits, the dog happily riding on the back of another bike. People on the streets stop and stare. Some wave. Some stand in respectful silence. At the hotel, the manager meets them personally, her expression nervous but respectful. "Mr. Hayes," she says, extending her hand. "Your room is ready. 6 months paid in full, as arranged. Anything you need, you just ask. The room is on the ground floor, accessible and simple but clean. Real bed, real bathroom, television, mini fridge, small table and chairs. Windows that look out on a courtyard with trees." To Randall, it looks like a palace. That night, after the others have left with promises to return, with phone numbers exchanged, with plans made, Randall sits on the edge of the bed, still wearing Griffin's jacket, and allows himself to fully feel everything he's been holding back. He weeps for the years lost, for the man he was and the man he became, for the kindness that found him when he'd stopped looking for it, for the brothers and sisters who rode through the night because he fed a dog. His phone a cheap prepaid cell that Prophet had pressed into his hand rings. He answers with shaking hands. "Just checking in, brother." Jericho's voice is warm in his ear. "Making sure you're settled." "I don't know how to thank you," Randall manages. "You already did, when you gave Gunny your last meal. Everything else is just us paying forward what you showed us." There's a pause, comfortable and companionable. "Get some rest," Jericho continues. "Tomorrow, Lyric will pick you up for your VA appointments. Prophet wants to see you Monday to go over the job details. And Saturday, we're having a chapter meeting. We'd like you there, if you're ready." "I'll be ready," Randall says, and realizes he means it. "Good. Welcome home, brother." The line disconnects. Randall sets the phone carefully on the bedside table, then stretches out on the bed, the first real bed he slept in for 18 months. The mattress is firm but not hard. The pillows are soft. The blankets are clean and warm. He sleeps deeply, dreamlessly, safely. The days that follow blur together in the best possible way. The VA appointments reveal damage that can be treated, dental work needed, a shoulder injury that can be rehabilitated, PTSD that can be managed with therapy and support. The back benefits Lyric mentioned amount to $14,000, deposited into a bank account Prophet helped him open. The construction job starts slow as promised. Light duty at first, letting his body remember what it means to work with purpose. The crew treats him with easy respect, several of them veterans themselves, all of them aware of his connection to the brotherhood. Every Saturday, Randall attends the chapter meetings. At first, he sits quietly in the back, still uncertain of his place. But gradually, he finds his voice, offers opinions, shares stories, becomes part of the conversation. 3 months later, on a cold February morning, Jericho approaches him at the construction site during lunch break. Gunny is with him. As always, the old dog moving more slowly these days but still alert and devoted. "Got something for you," Jericho says, holding out a folded piece of leather. Randall unfolds it carefully. A vest, new leather, dark and supple. And on the back, the patches. The death's head, the rocker reading, "Oakland, you're not a full member," Jericho clarifies. "That takes time, takes voting, takes proving yourself over years. But this is a prospect vest. It means you're family. It means you're under our protection. It means you ride with us." Randall's hands shake as he holds the vest. "I don't have a bike." Jericho grins. "That's being handled. Prophet knows a guy. You'll have wheels within a month. Meanwhile, you can ride with me." He pauses, his expression growing serious. "You saved my dog's life, probably. Gunny was sicker than I realized. Vet said another day without food might have been too much for his old system. You gave him your last meal, and you gave me more time with my best friend. That's a debt I can never fully repay. You've already—" Randall starts. "No," Jericho interrupts gently. "We've given you what you always deserved, what your country should have given you when you came home, what every person deserves: dignity, purpose, family. You gave that to yourself when you chose kindness over survival." Randall puts on the vest over his work clothes. It fits perfectly, settling onto his shoulders with a weight that feels like belonging. That weekend, he rides with the chapter to a veterans benefit in Portland. 300 bikers thundering up E5, with Randall in Jericho's sidecar, Gunny content to ride on another bike, and the wind carrying away years of pain and invisibility. At the benefit, Randall meets other veterans, some struggling, some thriving, all connected by the shared experience of service and survival. He tells his story, hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. The story of feeding a dog with his last meal. The story of 300 angels arriving at dawn. The story of transformation that began with the smallest act of compassion. His story inspires others, creates connections, leads to more veterans being helped, more phone numbers exchanged, more promises made and kept. 6 months after that November night at the gas station, Randall has his own apartment, his own motorcycle, his own life reconstructed from rubble. He's gained 30 pounds of healthy weight. His teeth are fixed, his shoulder healed through physical therapy. He's attending PTSD counseling weekly, learning to manage the demons that once controlled him. He's also reached out to his daughter. The conversation was difficult, painful, honest. But it happened, and it ended with a tentative plan to meet for coffee. To try, slowly, to rebuild what was broken. More importantly, he's found his purpose, working with Prophet's construction company during the week, riding with the brotherhood on weekends, and spending his free time connecting with other homeless veterans, offering the same lifeline he was given, telling them they matter, showing them they're not invisible. 1 year to the day after feeding Gunny, Randall stands at the same gas station where it all began. Trevor, the manager, is long gone, replaced by someone new. But the brick wall remains, and Randall remembers sitting against it with 75 cents and a can of tuna. Jericho pulls up on his motorcycle, Gunny in the sidecar. The old dog is even slower now, white around the muzzle, his movements careful, but his tail still wags when he sees Randall, and his eyes still hold that intelligent spark. "Figured you'd be here," Jericho says, dismounting. "Anniversary." Randall nods. "Wanted to remember, to mark it somehow." They stand together in companionable silence, watching the traffic pass. Finally, Jericho speaks. "You know the secret?" he asks. "The real reason 300 people rode through the night for you?" Randall shakes his head. "Because you did for Gunny what we all wish someone would do for us when we're at our lowest. You saw a living being in need, and despite having nothing, you gave everything. That's not just kindness, that's grace. That's humanity at its finest, and it's exactly the kind of person we want in our family." He claps Randall on the shoulder. "Come on, brother. Chapter meeting starts in an hour, and afterward there's someone I want you to meet. Young guy, just got back from Afghanistan. Living in his car. Thought you might have some words for him." Randall smiles, feeling the weight of his vest, the solidity of his bike parked nearby, the warmth of brotherhood surrounding him. "I've got words, and I've got something better. I've got a story about a dog and 300 angels, and how a single act of kindness can change everything." They mount their bikes, engines roaring to life. Gunny barks once, happily, ready for the ride. And together, they disappear into the afternoon traffic, heading toward the clubhouse, toward family, toward home. Behind them, the gas station stands as silent witness to where transformation began. A brick wall, 75 cents, one can of tuna, and the choice to be human when humanity seemed like a luxury he couldn't afford. That choice echoes forward, creating ripples that spread wider than Randall will ever fully know. Veterans helped, lives saved, families reunited, all because one man fed a dog and 300 angels noticed. The road stretches ahead, full of possibility. And Randall Hayes, once invisible and forgotten, rides it with his brothers beside him, his purpose clear, his heart finally, impossibly home. If you have enjoyed the story, tell YouTube to send you more stories like this by subscribing to this channel, liking the video, and leaving a comment.